what school was really like in 1970s Britain. Step through the creaky gates of time and into the chalk-dusted corridors of 1970s Britain. Back when blackboards ruled and teachers had eyes in the back of their heads, school was a strange mix of fear, freedom, and friendship. No iPads, no online classes, just squeaky shoes, boiled cabbage, and the occasional flying chalk. In this nostalgic dive, we'll explore what school was really like in 1970s Britain. From morning assemblies to school dinners and everything in between, it was a world both harsh and heartwarming. So, grab your satchel. It's time to head back to class. The morning dash and the school bell's call. There was no snooze button in the 70s. When that alarm went off, or in many homes, when Mom shouted from downstairs, it was a mad scramble. We'd throw on itchy uniforms, wrestle with gray socks, and gulp down a rushed breakfast of cereal or toast. Then it was off, rain or shine, on foot or by Raleigh bike. At school, the day began with the all-important sound, the bell. That shrill clang signaled the start of the day and a swift race to the playground or the school hall for morning assembly. This was no light-hearted sing-along. Hymns like "All Things Bright and Beautiful" were belted out with gusto, followed by notices and the occasional lecture on proper manners. Uniforms, haircuts, and strict teachers. What school was really like in the 1970s, Britain was shaped by the strict sense of discipline and appearance. Uniforms were non-negotiable. Boys wore scratchy blazers, short trousers, and stiff collars. Girls had pleated skirts, knee-high socks, and hair ribbons that matched school colors. Hair length was policed like a military operation. Boys with long hair were often told to get it cut or stay home. Teachers were strict, and many ruled their classes with a look that could silence a room. Corporal punishment was still in practice, and the dreaded cane or ruler across the knuckles was a very real threat. Step out of line, and you'd quickly learn the true meaning of discipline. Classrooms, chalk dust, and wooden desks. Before the age of whiteboards and smart screens, classrooms in 1970s Britain were simple and functional. Blackboards loomed at the front, always smudged with leftover chalk from a previous lesson. Teachers often wielded chalk like weapons, throwing them with uncanny precision at inattentive pupils. Desks were wooden with lifting lids, and inside were exercise books, fountain pens, and chewed rubbers. The inkwells may have been retired by the 70s, but many schools still held on to remnants of earlier decades. Ink-stained fingers were a rite of passage. Wall charts, globes, and the odd, dusty skeleton added a certain character to every room. Lessons. From mental maths to BBC programs. What school was really like in the 1970s, Britain was shaped by a no-nonsense back-to-basics curriculum. There was a heavy focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic. Times tables were recited daily, spellings were learned by rote, and handwriting was serious business. Cursive writing was prized, and the more elaborate your loops, the better. Science lessons involved Bunsen burners and the odd vinegar and bicarbonate explosion, while geography often meant coloring in maps of the Commonwealth. The classroom TV was a treat. When wheeled in, it meant a rare viewing of a BBC Schools program. Perhaps Look and Read, or Words and Pictures, often accompanied by that unforgettable theme tune that signaled learning could actually be fun. School dinners, a love-hate tradition. The infamous school dinners, an experience etched into the memories of anyone who went to school in the 70s. Served up in steamy dining halls with rows of plastic trays and clattering cutlery, the menu was memorable, not always for the right reasons. Boiled cabbage, pink custard, lumpy mash, liver and onions. Yet somehow we survived, and even grew fond of the jam roly-poly and chocolate sponge with mint custard. The dinner ladies ruled the hall with iron ladles, and you'd better not leave food on your plate. Seconds were for the brave. Dessert was the reward for making it through the main course. Break time and playground adventures. Break time was sacred. Whether it was 15 minutes in the mid-morning chill or the long-awaited lunch break, it was our moment of freedom. We ran wild on the tarmac, played British Bulldog, Conquer Wars, or skipping rope rhymes. Football wasn't just a game, it was a daily battle, often played with a worn-out tennis ball. Pocket money bought us wagon wheels, sherbet fountains, or a quick trip to the tuck shop for a bag of cola cubes. Even in rough weather, we braved the playground, our energy unfazed by cold wind or soggy shoes. Cuts and bruises were badges of honor, and "you'll live" was the standard nurse's prescription. Teachers who made an impact. Behind the stern faces and thick-rimmed glasses were teachers who, believe it or not, truly cared. Many were strict, yes, but they also lit sparks of curiosity that stayed with us for life. Whether it was the English teacher who made poetry come alive, or the science teacher who let us dissect owl pellets, these were the characters that defined our days. In the 1970s Britain, school wasn't about endless tests. It was about learning through experience and repetition. Of course, some teachers were downright terrifying, but even they taught us resilience and the art of staying alert. Secondary school. Tougher lessons, bigger lives. For those in secondary school, the 1970s brought a different rhythm. Comprehensive education was rolling out across the country, slowly phasing out the old grammar and secondary modern divide. Still, many children sat the 11+ exam, and your result could set the course of your education. Subjects became more specialized: woodwork and metalwork for the boys, needlework and home economics for the girls. The gap between genders was stark, but slowly shifting. Careers advisors began to make an appearance, though their advice was often basic and traditional. If you were good with your hands, you'd be nudged toward trades. If not, office work or nursing might be suggested. The social side: friends, fads, and first crushes. School wasn't just about lessons. It was where friendships were forged, where we passed notes under desks and swapped stickers in the cloakroom. Fads came and went: yo-yos, clackers, Rubik's Cubes toward the end of the decade. School discos introduced us to the Bee Gees, ABBA, and the slow dance nerves of our first romantic moments. There were end-of-term plays, choir performances, and school trips that meant long coach journeys filled with songs and snacks. Whether it was a museum, a castle, or just the local swimming baths, any trip out of school was pure gold. The changing tide: education on the brink. By the late 1970s, British schools were shifting. More emphasis was being placed on equal opportunities. New teaching methods were being explored, and classrooms were beginning to move away from the Victorian-style rigidity of earlier decades. But even with changes brewing, much of what school was really like in 1970s, Britain remained rooted in tradition. It was a time before political correctness, before smartphones, before standardized national testing. Teachers had more autonomy, students had more freedom to fail and try again. And learning wasn't always about targets. It was about growing up, making mistakes, and doing your best. What school was really like in the 1970s, Britain was a blend of structure and spontaneity, strict rules and playground rebellion. It was a time of change, yet deeply traditional. Though decades have passed, those days live on in memory. Chalk-scented, school dinner flavored, and full of heart. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and turn on the notification bell.